game and assists on average per game, which
like,
is pretty cool. And we talked about how things have stirred up and changed in the league over the weekend, because Tetra mentioned already that CE, for the very first time in this very young season still, are showing signs of weakness, and that is very reminiscent of what happened to them last phase, wasn't it?
It really is. Now, I can talk about the games that they played off stream a little bit here. I was able to get the replays here. I did link them to you. I don't know if you were able to watch. But the first example, CE, did just get kind of outplayed in
Sorry,
their
Tetris,
match.
to interrupt you, but look at that. We've got Yaya on the pictures. Yaya on the bottom right. She's here.
Updated. Excellent.
Nice.
That's awesome. But yeah, CE had a little bit of trouble in their first matchup, but they also did have to play one of their matchups, their one against SPT, with a substitute.
Right.
They played with their substitute player Mew, and as such, SPT were able to overcome them.
All right, but now enough about CE and SPT. We're going to focus on the first best of two of the day with none other than Timeless and his boys from TimeFlow. Kicking it off here with Cat 11, Atui, and Sho joining the fray here, but they're facing none other than TheOne, and that is a team that many a player has to be on a lookout for in China right now, because those boys are bringing the heat, and they've been on a triumph as of late. But Timeless, he has become the key player here, playing Illidan a lot in the Open Division and in the Crucible, but we haven't really seen him on stream on that Illidan yet, have we?
We have not yet, no, but we have been able to see... TimeFlow is the weird team in the group. Like, we talked about the games that were played off-stream, for example. They 2-0'd BTG.
Right.
Went 1-1 versus SPT, but then also went 1-1 versus RPG. So it's very much a toss-up of what kind of style they're going to bring to the table.
Exactly. It's almost like a coin flip sometimes. Which TimeFlow are we going to see today? Are we going to see the unpredictable legends that seem to be able to take down even the most experienced of teams in HGC China, or are we going to see a little bit of a more shaky performance? We're going to find out in a bit. But those guys, TheOne, they entered HGC China last season as one of the upcoming rookie teams, and nobody really had them on the radar. But then players like Hugo, players like Meng, they really emerged from the shadows and really made a strong impact on the league.
Completely agree, and like I mentioned, I've watched the off-stream games where TheOne were able to 2-0 SOA and 2-0 CE,
that
two
is
of the
crazy.
strongest looking teams in the region. And there's one thing I have to say, Hugo makes a terrifying Leoric. It's a very hero he seems to be very fond with.
Okay.
And TheOne's Falstad is absolutely not to be messed with. They seem to bring it out like second most, tied with SPT, and it really works for them.
Yeah, and speaking of Falstad, I think there's no other major region right now that emphasizes Falstad that much, and that also makes him shine that well, because we've seen a variety of playstyles, including a Falstad pick. We've seen an anti-Hanzo composition featuring Tyrael Judgment and Hinterlands Blast. We've seen a normal Falstad play with Gust and Sanctification, for example. Like, in general, generally speaking, Falstad likes to be paired with Tyrael. The new Tyrael, by the way, that we see in China quite a lot.
Which is, of course, the patch we're playing on as China plays on the live patch.
Very
but
true.
Something is worth mentioning, because it did happen over this past weekend, as we have a quick look at the stats and the previous matchups. You can see TheOne pretty decent previous match setup, whereas TimeFlow pretty consistently drawing with different teams in different scenarios, so very strange. But we are on the live patch, and as we saw over the weekend, Blaze is now allowed. The light has been applied, and we only saw one game with it, and that was by Fnatic, and it did lose, but there is always a chance for more.
There is always a chance for more indeed. Blaze isn't done blazing just yet, and I'm really excited to see whether China is actually going to buzz him out today, and if so, how they're going to play him. Now, we're going to be going to Tomb of the Spreader Queen, and that seems to be TimeFlow's home turf. 3 times they played on this map in this season already, and 3 times they went home as the victors.
3-0 on the Tomb of the Spider Queen. I don't think I've seen a Tomb of the Spider Queen setup so good since RPG when they were in their prime, because this was their map back when they were in their prime. due to Zeratul powers.
Zeratul powers that we're actually missing at some point, because RPG, unfortunately, not making it out of that bottom tier of the table, and we're really excited to see them play later on, because I think the last two series of today are actually going to be fairly evenly matched.
I believe so. Like RPG, they currently sit 1 point, assuming these point totals are correct.
I think they're sitting at 2 in the meantime. They have managed to get one more draw.
It says 3.
Oh, 3 maybe even,
on my sheet, and BTG apparently sit on 4.
Could
the
be
next
correct, yeah.
highest though is Sunny Lion on 7. They are currently very securely in that Crucible-esque position, so they're going to need to work hard to get out of it.
Yeah, in the meantime, we're going to take a look at the very Alliance-themed draft up to this point. Uther and Greymane making it out here. And I think it's safe to say that the Asian regions, Korea and China predominantly, they are the first ones to emphasize Uther like they did last phase, for example. In NA and Europe, we see Uther every now and then, don't get me wrong, but I don't think the Western regions are relying on that Paladin as much as China and Korea necessarily.
Very true. Uther is very popular here in China. Korea, some teams seem to rely on him, and Europe, it's a little bit intermittent. Like, for example, Zealot seemed very keen on Uther, but
they played it yesterday very well. Shad actually played him like a young god when they faced Fnatic and won 3-2. That was insane.
Shad is probably one of my... To shout out the European region.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Shad is probably one of my consistently favorite players, because I've been casting him for so long at this point, through all kinds of European events, where he's always been, I am the guy who can play Vikings and Abathur, and I am the cheeky guy. I am pushing your lane with Monstrosity during a pro game. But you forget just how really mechanically good on so many heroes he is, and seeing his role swap to support has really demonstrated this. So good on you, Shad.
Yeah, and speaking of mechanically well-versed players, here is the Leoric by TheOne that you mentioned when we introduced the teams, and you said that Hugo seems to have found his new love to the Undead Trader King.
Yeah, it's very, very scary, and Leoric actually appears to be a bit of a sleeper hit here in China, where he sort of sneaks through drafts a lot, looks fairly underwhelming, but appears to be making a huge amount of the plays in the pro games.
Yeah, very true. And when you have a player like Hugo, the only thing that could really stop him last phase, or last season I should say, was his relatively limited hero pool. So he was fairly easy to predict. If he didn't get the Illidan, he probably tried to go for a Sonya, but if that didn't work out, he was not really the biggest of threats. But in the 2018 season, he really seemed to have worked on that issue, on that weakness, and now he's an even more dangerous player than before.
Indeed, and this is a map where we have seen Leoric used to insane effect due to very solid wave clear and the ability to combine that Royal Focus and Ominous Wraith to make Leoric, despite his lack of hard CC, into a fantastic engage hero.
Yeah, definitely true, especially since there's quite a couple of choke points available on this battleground, most notably near the boss area, most notably near the turn-in area. So if you end up hitting several enemy heroes with that Ominous Wraith, you can really allow your teammates to go in more recklessly. And Tychus and Kalthas making it into the mix. So TimeFlow, they seem to be well prepared because they are fighting ice with fire.
Yeah, Jaina responding, the Jaina response out of TheOne here, a little bit more what we're used to.
Yeah.
Coming out a lot of the matches. The Kalthas, second time it's technically been played, unless there's a match I didn't see, which there's a good chance because there's a lot of matches. Here in HGC China, CE tried to play it in their match versus SPT, and they did lose with it. It did appear to have a lot of trouble really getting to bear.
And by the way, just a public service announcement for you guys out there as well, since there has been a little bit of discussion about hero diversity and how teams refrain sometimes to picking something new. You've come to the right place, because China is all about being different and being unique and being flexible. So expect some of the heroes that you may not always see in the other regions and just enjoy and how the Chinese pros use them. And you mentioned the Jaina as well. Speaking of being innovative and creating something new, China, next to Korea, they have brought the Jaina back into the limelight.
They have, along with Ragnaros, who is starting to see a little bit more play in a lot of the other regions. But
especially on this map too.
Indeed, the double fire on this map has been shown to be very effective overall, but we'll have to see how good it's going to be at stopping the incredible pushing power that Leoric, Anub, and especially Greymane, if he's protected onto forts, can actually offer.
And the question remains as well, which hero is Timeless, the man himself, going to play? We've seen him on Warriors in the past, his Garrosh was legendary, but we've also seen him on heroes like Tychus in the past. Last week, for example, it didn't really look as convincing as the Garrosh, but I think a mechanically strong player like him can definitely have his shining moments.
Absolutely, I completely agree, but this has been a cause of concern about TimeFlow as a team.
Right.
The amount of flexing they do. We have managed to see their main tank player on ranged assassin. We've seen their main support player on ranged and melee assassins. They really don't seem to have set roles amongst the team.
Yeah, they defy the rules of competitive Heroes of the Storms at some point, because normally you're not used to seeing players hop from one opposite side of the spectrum to the other, because support and assassins couldn't be different, or couldn't be more different from each other. But as we see the flags waving in the winds, we see the purple lights on the stage go light it up, we're gonna turn it up and enter the battlefield for game number 1 between TimeFlow and TheOne. And on the left-hand side, in the blue trunks, we're seeing none other than one of the newcomer teams, TimeFlow, with Timeless on that Ragnaros after all. Cat plays Kel'Thas, we have 11 on the Tychus, Atui back on the support, back on Luther, and Fsho on the Cow on ETC.
Whereas on the right side is going to be TheOne, with Hugo on the Leoric, Lucky playing the Jada, Meng on the Greymane, Zado is playing on the Rhaegar, and Hihi is going to be on the Anubarak.
Yeah, Hihi is a player that I would like to mention here as well, because although he may not be as shiny and flashy as Hugo, who has had many MVP awards in the past, he's a very reliable warrior player, and especially that Anubarak that we saw from him last week really convinced me and made me a believer, so pay special attention to that guy.
Exactly. There are two types of tank players in HGC. There are the ones who make plays all the time and get shouted out like your breezes, people like that. Cattle's a tank, right? From NA? Am I getting my roles mixed up there?
No, I think you're correct. I want to mention Justing. Like if you saw him yesterday,
exactly. Justing's a fantastic example there. But then, excuse me, there is the other type of tank, which pulls the devil trick, aka the greatest trick a tank can pull is making you forget it existed, and then it destroys you.
Strikes you like a cobra from the shadows. There we go. Now we see a little... There we go. We're seeing a little bit of a gank going on here onto Hugo, but he's Leoric. He has the Wraithwalk available, so he gets out alive. And the most important thing about this is that he bought a lot of time for his teammates to finish the Siege Giant quest in the bottom. Now, the Siege Giant camp is oftentimes neglected, oftentimes overlooked, but you cannot forget about how impactful this mercenary camp can be. Namely, if you use it early on to push and distract the enemy team, you can sometimes sneak in gems unseen and hiddenly. But for now, I think TheOne actually just focuses mainly on the push here. And they already start getting the first tower. Timeless, though, leading the charge on the Ragnaros and trying to keep those mercenaries at bay.
Has to be careful, though. We see Hihi dropping low. Fsho, though, dropping solo. Zado trying to go for the kill, and they're able to pick up Fsho.
Here we go. The double doggos finishing off the ETC with one bite after the other. Wonderfully done here as well by the entirety of TheOne, and they not only take towers early on, but they also establish themselves a nice gem lead, 11-0 up to this point.
They were also able to soak that middle and top lane in the same way that TimeFlow were, to be fair. Both teams leaving their mage in the lane, attempting to burst down the minion wave so they could rotate as effectively as possible, and giving them the double lane globe stack, with both of them going for their respective globe talents.
Yeah, definitely true. Globe talents are very, very rewarding on this battleground in particular, because it's one of the smallest ones in the game. As such, dropping a lot of gems in, excuse me, a lot of gems too, but in the meantime, a lot of Kel'Thas's are dropped. A merciless gank in the middle lane. But as I said, a lot of globes to be dropped, and such talents like Regeneration Master are very, very useful.
And I don't think we have ever actually done a proper breakdown of the new globe mechanics that are in Heroes of the Storm, which weren't in the original season. Do you want to give like a quick breakdown as to what's different about globes in general this season?
The cool thing about globes now is that they actually turn purple after a while and nobody picked them up. And purple globes, as you guys know, are basically neutral. They can be picked up by any team, so oftentimes a team that has stronger early game, stronger wave clear can maintain their push by adding additional regeneration globes to fill up their mana and health bars.
Exactly, someone who's able to dominate the lane and able to fight under tower, or just able to zone their opponent back and just hold the lane in the middle, can usually get double the amount of globes and really deny sustain, even if it's just mana, to their opponents in lane. So it adds a little bit more interest and strategy to the laning phase.
Yeah, what I wanted to mention here, oh, never mind, there goes a cleanse, Lucky's safe for now.
We already see the Molten Core dropped here, but that forces a quick disengage out of the one. Not in any particular danger here, as the Molten Core being used to try and de-push at least a little bit here.
Yeah.
As we see the one just completely ignoring the lane the Molten Core is in and moving to the bot lane. Now, Molten Core can reach here, but it's already expired.
Exactly, it's already expired. They've really tried to amplify and unite their damage to kill the middle lane Webweaver as fast as possible. In the meantime, Jaina is trying to buy as much time as possible, but it was not enough to save her after all. And I've got to say, despite TimeFlow getting a kill on pick on the Jaina, the one is coming in swinging, mighty strong, almost 1.5 levels ahead of their opponents.
Meng picks up the gems from the lane. F-Show moving around, trying to get some zoning potential for his team. They can't turn in yet due to the fact that Timeless has taken a little bit to try and clear this. Only will take minor damage, though, to that bottom tower. So could have been worse, but still losing a fort in the first turn in can be avoided in a lot of cases. So a solid push out of the one.
Yeah, definitely.
Ooh, danger, danger.
Uh-oh, danger zone indeed, but I think TimeFlow showed a little too much respect there. They could have maybe gone in there a little bit more decisively, but if you're that far behind, you rather play it a little bit safelessly and wait until you have heroic abilities available, for example, and most importantly, you don't want to drop the gems you accumulated up to this point, because if you drop all of those gems, your comeback possibilities are greatly reduced and limited. Now, I want to mention something here, Tetcher. Once again, going back to how important teams consider Globe Towns to be, Anubarak went for the Region Master, despite the fact that there is so much ability damage available on the enemy team.
Yeah, especially burst ability damage in the form of Kael'thas. Tigers maybe a little bit less, it's a little bit on cooldown. Ragnaros especially, but yeah, it is interesting. But once again, Globe talents are so easy to stack on this map. We will see them begin to start frocking up about 13 to 16 if a team has done really well in their rotations.
All right. In the meantime, one thing we have to highlight here that is in word that actually favors TimeFlow and allows them to stay in the game for quite some time is a pretty decent amount of wave clear. You have Molten Core. Oh, never mind. A Cocoon goes down and he postures up.
So aggressive on the Cocoon. They managed to land the first combo. The nice use of... oh my god,
ring?
Never mind. Ring of Frost is dropped. HGC is taken out. The Entomb was good. They just don't finish off 11 with that cocktail.
But did you see how well they were using the Entomb as well? And Entomb on top of it is a heroic ability. We have to mention, we oftentimes thought it was underused and underutilized, but if you combine it with other CC and lock people in, it can still be so good. Well, never mind, Rhaegar can self-cleanse yourself, mate, and he got in a little bit too deep.
He did go a little bit too deep, getting outplayed, trying to capitalize on the kill they got with some structure-based aggression, but can't cleanse himself, can't ancestral himself. Rhaegar, the only support on the team, did get picked off.
Yeah, and there's a thin line between going in for the kill sometimes with your Feral Lunge, which deals a considerable amount of damage, and, you know, staying back and playing Rhaegar more like a ranged hero, because let's not forget that he oftentimes should be a prioritized target if he goes in too deep, and TimeFlow, they just flipped the switch and played it really well, focusing on the target that was the most exposed and the least likely to get out of harm's way. But once again, the Entomb, such an important tool to really lock people in, prevent them from running away from the Ring of Frost, so Jaina has a much easier time landing those.
And there has actually been a little bit of discussion about Leoric's level 20 abilities, mostly in the form of from some of the European pro players on Twitter, as to whether you should be taking the silence on the Entomb, for example, or whether you should be going for that nice little AoE damage that synergizes with your Drain Hope.
Yeah, the draining upgrade here, the Burning Despair is such a formidable AoE damage tool, especially with that Entomb later on and the Jaina AoE burst and F-show on that ETC currently. Not really having the best of times. Needed to be cleansed. Here goes the mosh pit.
Divine Cow as Lucky gets detonated here. Here comes Meg looking for the Tigers, trying to focus it down. Tigers holding the line but can't get the counter in as Meg rolls out of the Ragnaros damage, easily outplaying his opponent.
The bombs by Kel'Thas were spreading though, and oh my goodness, one more combo by the Molten Cord Ragnaros, and I think he could have ended Meng's life on the Greymane, but it was not meant to be this time. The Web Viewers were actually hammering on the fort there as well, reducing the time that Molten Cord was alive, but nonetheless, I think they dealt some serious damage onto the one. Now they're gonna have to regain their strength, muster their forces again, because the Web Viewers, the Spiders, are relentlessly pushing once more.
They're going to be able to pick up at least this top fort here. It was already a little bit low. Bot is going to be cleared up by Ragnaros. There's no fort there. So once again, that ticking health, seeing as the lane was a bit pushed up, won't get as much value here. You see that replay. A beautiful setup immediately countered by the Holy Cow. But look at this Hehe. Actually very patient with his reaction, not doing too much due to the fact he already saw the Divine Shield go down.
Yeah, and Zato there on the Rhaegar, maybe prioritizing the wrong hero to use Ancestral on, because Jaina was under so much pressure already, while Leoric is still relatively tanky, and even if he ends up dying, he can still contribute to the fight, so maybe he should have landed on Jaina, but either way, their push was still successful. They still demolished some of the buildings by TimeFlow. However, TimeFlow, they need a little bit of time to get rolling. Keep in mind, Kel'Thas is basically the strongest after 13, 16, and 20, most importantly. Once he gains access to the double flame strike and the flamethrower at 20, he's going to be able to poke down people from a much safer distance.
Oh yes, going to be very good if he can get that kind of combo off. And he has already started with a little bit of Living Bomb, didn't go for the burned flesh as ETC takes some damage. So no percentage damage here against the kind of double tank, but they're a little bit of the lower hit point tank, so this does make sense.
Yeah, definitely true. I mean, heroes like Leoric or Anubrek, most importantly, they're not really suffering that much from percentage-based damage. It's still good against them, don't get me wrong. In the meantime, Cleanse goes down on F-show. Rather be safe than sorry.
Exactly. Percentage damage works on every hero. It's percentage damage. That is how it works. But the fact is, like you said, you want to be able to get the maximum damage output possible. And as such, percentage damage will always have more value on higher health heroes. So this is why the majority of the times when you see a team with high percentage damage, some of the tanks that will end up being picked are Leoric, Anub, and sometimes Tyrael.
And Timeless, by the way, on that Ragnaros, he is now the Nexus's most wanted hero. 37 gems. And I'm not just speaking for the enemy team, I'm also speaking for... Oh, sorry, you wanted to say something?
I actually completely forgot to tell you. I got Jaina in trouble. The one cow mosh pit onto Rhaegar. There's the Sulfura smash there. Zato there just walks away, not having too many difficulties there. Uther finally getting popped out of that cocoon as Hugo's trying to move forward, trying to get the play. Divine Shield, though, is used. And even with that Odin, it does not look like TimeFlow or the One will pick up the kill. But what I was going to say is we actually saw in one of the off-stream games the full Timeless Thrall, full quest build, and it was glorious.
It was glorious indeed. And everyone who's ever had the honor and bliss of playing Hero League in Europe with Timeless, they will know exactly what we're talking about here. Because Timeless likes his exotic builds, and sometimes he doesn't even care what anyone else is thinking. He just does what Timeless does sometimes. But we gotta say, that is the first turn in 4 TimeFlow. Let's see how much counter value they can get this time.
This is the issue with casting China. We're trying to give Timeless a little bit of praise here, and immediately we see 2 god cleanses with Rhaegar managing to cleanse one of his teammates, immediately followed by a counter cleanse onto that burrow charge from Anubrak coming in from Uther. What insane plays we're seeing from both these teams. Yeah,
especially the supports are coming up big in this game. Definitely true. One god cleanse after the other. In the meantime, he going in deep. He's protected by his shield up to this point. He takes magic damage, but thanks to the health regen and the healing provided by Zato, he stays alive almost unscarred entirely. And the 5-man team combo of TimeFlow already on the retreat. Let's see how many gems we've got left for the One. They can get a turn in right now. Actually, they can. That's exactly enough.
Yeah, they're gonna... Yeah, exactly enough, and as such, they are going to turn in with a couple heroes. However, they're going to be a little slow because they are spending time clearing out that Bruiser camp as well.
Yeah, oftentimes if you have a little bit of time left, you want to time those mercenary camps so that they will push alongside with the web weavers to really maximize the pushing power overall. Look at Lucky though, using the piercing frostbolt to keep the enemies at bay, but without his gems they can't get the turn, and I think it's TimeFlow who are successful once more.
As we see Cat clearing out the lane with his teammates, trying to siege down more gems.
They need the 16
on that Ragnaros. They do need that 16. This is the attempt here, trying to soak up that top lane. They'd love to be able to do that to bot lane as well. The difference is though, there's no fort there. So anytime they try to soak in middle of bot lane, they are unintentionally putting themselves in danger.
And I'm not sure, Tetra, how much value TimeFlow can get out of this turn-in, because not only is the talent disadvantage crippling them, but also the lanes are not really necessarily pushed in. There's no keeps for Timeless to really use the Molten Core on.
The Divine Shield and the Cocoon both used, both tanks looking for the engage, but the equivalent abilities used actually kind of prevents the engage from happening from either team, as the one rotate up the top lane, but TimeFlow are in quick pursuit here. Here's the Ragnarok swing! There comes the top hero smash, trying to take down Zado. F-Show gets the mosh pit, but completely misses. Zado able to escape. He's getting sieged by Timeless, but he can't get the kill.
He can't get the kill. There was a little bit of mis-synergy, anti-synergy here between ETC and Timeless. The Sulfur Smash was looking good, but then the knockback by ETC actually put the target out of the center and preventing the maximum damage to be landed on. And now F-Show, he's in trouble, getting chased down. The one there smelling blood.
Gets the speed boost from Rag, but it's not enough as the one keep pushing forward, looking for Cat. Gets into the wall, then Meng! Over the wall, Meng chasing for a beautiful cleanse to keep the chase going as Timeless is completely isolated and taken out.
Down goes the Fire Lord, down goes Kel'Thas, and I think 11 on that Tyke is going to follow suit. Triple kill, quad kill actually against TimeFlow, and the boss is up and ready to be taken. The one in full momentum are using the time now to maybe get the boss and the turn in as well. 59 gems out of 60, but in the meantime, I think they're gonna lose the bottom. Lucky is trying to save it. Is he gonna be Lucky?
He is not lucky. He doesn't have the extra radius on his Blizzard or anything like that. And even if he did, it would not be enough as the bottom keep goes down. The first one of the game. Now the one. There's a lot of pressure on them to potentially push with this Web Weaver and the boss as the turn-in happens from Hugo.
And I'm not sure, Tetra, if the one should have actually gone to the boss that quickly. They just killed 4 people. They could have easily taken down the top keep and maybe even deal some damage onto the core, but they went for the safe route. Only Uther was left alive. There was no way he could have defended that, but now they're gonna have the boss pushing. They're gonna have mighty Whippers joining the fray as well in the top and in the middle, most importantly. Let's see if the one can actually get permanent damage.
Web Weaver a little late to the party here. Boss already down to half health as Tyker sieging in with that Odin noob. Looking for the play. Able to move back around though to put himself out of danger as Hugo moves into the fray. Managing to try and zone out F-Show. They need to be careful not to group as Moshpit was not used. Here it comes. There's the Moshpit. The Holy Cow, but Meg cleansed out of it. The Molten Swing from Timeless did have a little bit of effect. The Entomb does not land. Tychus remains in the Cocoon though, removing so much damage here from TimeFlow.
The immediate stun follow-up on 11 there as well. F-Show once again very low. The cocktail lands, additional damage had been dealt, but now the core is in danger. Everybody is still alive, but most of the heroic abilities are still on cooldown. Only Sulfur Smash available for TimeFlow. And it looks like the one, they basically did what they wanted to achieve. They got the keep, they've got permanent damage done here, and they're patiently waiting for that 20, and with the Storm Talons combined, they could try to reinitiate the team fight.
Nice knowledge there. Nice, not really audacity, just nice read there from Timeless on that Ragnaros. Seeing, even though there were all 5 members of the enemy team, all of them very healthy in his base, he still moves to mid lane to clear due to the fact that the boss and the Web Weaver were very low health. The one would have had to make an immensely brave play to try and go for the core there.
And if you think about it, TimeFlow isn't actually that far behind in structures because they were able to get the bottom keep previously, so they have catapults pushing in their favor as well. The main difficulty for TimeFlow right now is catching up in experience. It's still 1.5 levels until they get level 20 themselves, so if the one is playing this very smartly, they're going to use the magic aura provided by the Night Camp, and they're definitely going to try to actually get the middle keep now.
And that's the plan. He already knocking in with some good CC. The Fury of the Sunwell, though, getting some value out of Kael'thas to try and poke him down as Hugo tries to cause some chaos in the backline. Has that burning hopelessness as well. Once again, he denied by the Divine Shield.
Divine Shield was good, saved Kael'thas for now, but look at those double mercenary camps, dealing so much damage, providing so much protection as well, and CE... Oh, that was close.
Very nicely done. As we see TimeFlow moving forward. Hugo looking for his opportunity. There's the Summons of Timeless. Cleanse a little bit late this time, but it did the job. Ring of Frost only hitting F-Show. Here comes
Timeless!
Bolton swing on Meg. Another insane Sulfura smash, but Ancestral keeps Meg alive. Have they bit off more than they can chew with this defense? Cap turning it round, but Lucky just jukes the Ragnarok abilities and stays alive.
Get juked, mate! Dodging all those Molten Core abilities. Now Hugo trapping F-Show. The Burning Despair is wreaking havoc there. And all the members of TimeFlow end up falling. The core is naked and exposed. And TheOne are sealing the deal in spectacular fashion.
Insane final fight by TheOne in the enemy base under a Ragnaros, but splitting and some insane micro by Jada there, able to keep them in that game and bring them the first win in this 2-game series.
Big move by Lucky there on the Jaina. As you said, that cheeky little sidestep to the side, dodging Timeless's hopes and efforts on that Molten Core was just beautifully to observe, and it really shows how important it is to sometimes mind game your opponents. If you basically know what they're going to do, just do the exact opposite and make them look like fools. And Lucky did exactly that. I think that was once again a marvelous performance by TheOne. Once again, making a strong statement and undermining their claim, or underlining, excuse me, not undermining, underlining their claim to be one of the top 3 teams and maybe one of the teams to represent China at future tournaments offline.
Yeah, completely agreed. And this was always something we had considered for them, where we looked at them in their previous matches last season, and we were like, yeah, they're good, but they're not BTG good kind of thing. BTG, not even potentially in the same league right now.
Definitely true, and it's really cool to see the growth of teams like TheOne. Last season, we saw them show up pretty dominantly, pretty strong, establishing themselves a soft spot in the middle of the table, but in the end, they couldn't make it to the top 3. BTG looked way more consistent, and consistency is key here in that Chinese league format. Double round robin, best of 2s, which means tons of games, tons more opportunities to get points. So the more consistent you are, the better your chances to qualify.
Exactly. And being able to... China is also the region where you can afford to make those risky plays the most, which is why we do see them sometimes, because when you're in a 2-game series, 1 win is still a point. It's not in the same situation where, let's say, Europe, for example, where if you cheese and you fail, then you get nothing. If you cheese and you win, well, now the enemy knows you're going to cheese, and if you lose the rest of the games, you still get nothing.
Exactly, and that's the cool thing about China. Not just, you know, the explosive meta, the godlike teamfight action that we're used to seeing all the times, but also the format allows for spicy situations at the end of the season with potential tiebreakers, with crazy draws all the time, making the rankings even more unpredictable. But we're gonna see what the who the MVP is, and Meng on that Grammy. I probably would have given it to Lucky because of those cheeky sidesteps, but Meng, I mean, he's been bringing some serious burst damage.
Lucky was very good. Meng, once again, I'd probably give it to him